on the News Channel 5 network. This is MorningLine with Nick Barris.
Good morning, everyone. Nick Barris here. Thanks for joining us on MorningLine. It is a Monday, and I do hope that you made it through the storms last night. Indeed, if you're watching us right now, and if you're watching either on TV or streaming live on Facebook right now at newschannel5.com, you're one of the folks out there that either had your power restored or never lost it. At one point last night, I think the bigger question wasn't showing where the outages were, but to show where the power remained. There were over 100,000 people without power, 130,000, I think, at one point last night throughout Middle Tennessee, and it's still been slow being restored back as they're out there working hard on it now. But if you're with us, appreciate it, and I certainly hope you were safe last night. So we're coming to you live this morning, and the technology of it all allows us to bring our guests on as always, either through Zoom or streaming on Skype along those lines. And we lost one guest because of power, but we have our others lined up. And this morning we're going to open it up again. We talked a lot about it last week with Vice Mayor Jim Schulman, the question of a property tax increase here in Metro. It's very big, and a lot of people have some strong opinions on whether or not it should be 32% or not. And keep in mind, folks, it's not going to be just Metro Nashville. Municipalities, especially the large cities across the country, are going to be facing budget crunches. And one way or another, they're going to have to find a way to make up the money they're losing during this pandemic. Metro right now has this one plan on the books, but remember, it's a proposal, and this is something that still goes to the full council. There may be other proposals. What ultimately will pass, we'll see. To talk more about that is someone who will be right in the middle of it. Metro Councilman Bob Mendes is joining us from home. It's good to see him with power, and he is chairman of the Finance Committee, so certainly will be involved with this. And as with Vice Mayor Jim Schulman, Bob, I know that you guys have probably heard quite a bit from constituents in reaction to this.
We have, people do not like the idea of the tax rate going up 32%. But we've been through this each of the last couple of years when there's been a proposed tax increase. So it's no surprise that we'd be getting a lot of emails.
Unprecedented to that size. I saw over the weekend, I think the mayor himself said, I don't blame people for being upset with this. I don't think any council member really wants to have to do this. But maybe you can characterize for us the importance of whether or not it's 32% or the council comes back with something different. How important is it? How dire is the situation right now for the city in need of some kind of cash flow?
Well, the thing that people should be mad about is the fact that heading into these crises, the tornado and now the virus, we had the worst in America for big cities rainy day fund, just a almost non-existent rainy day fund. And without having that, dealing with the crisis is next to impossible without raising the tax rate in the middle of it. That's the shame of it, is the failure to have a rainy day fund in place.
Now, the council, I guess, has a meeting scheduled. Is it for May 11th and then a public hearing on June 2nd? So where do we stand on this? The 32% increase is right now a proposal in the mayor's budget. As head of the budget committee, where do we go and how will this be handled now moving forward?
Well, starting in the week of May 11, we'll have in the council 5 evenings of what we call department budget hearings, where one department after another will come into the council, answer questions, give us more information. And it's really that process that gives us the info we need to catch up with where the mayor's office is right now. They've already done all that work and have proposed a budget. Now it's the council's turn to figure out what's in the mayor's budget, talk to departments, and figure out whether there's other options available.
So, and that's the process every budget, correct? Going through this. Of course, this is a very unique situation. Right. But as the budget committee, what you basically do, and explain this for our viewers who maybe aren't clear on how it all works. This budget's proposed, it goes to the budget committee, and then you start hearing from all the department heads. You're going to hear from the sheriff, and you're going to hear from the water department, and they're going to come in and talk about where they stand budget-wise and what they need or what maybe they can cut. Is that how that works?
Right. That is the way it works. And with me being the budget committee chair, I started hearing from everybody by phone almost immediately after the mayor made his proposal last Tuesday. I was catching up on some work over the weekend and just counted. I had some 40 telephone calls on Wednesday and Thursday, the 2 days after the budget came out, and I think 3 of them were my actual job and 37 were people calling me about the budget.
Yeah, and I don't know if your calls are anything like the messages I see from folks, but I don't know. The vast majority of people out there are very frustrated, saying, look, we're out of work, even though slowly, hopefully, things will start coming back eventually. Not yet, I know, in Metro, but saying, gosh, now it just isn't the time, and they're having a hard time getting a handle on saying, look, I mean, we understand maybe the city's going to need money, but now's not the time to ask for it. How's the council going to balance that when you know there are people right now just having trouble putting food on the table when they don't have a job?
It's going to be hard. You know, a lot of us in the council, about half of us, have been pushing to get the budget fixed for the last 2 years so we wouldn't be in such a dire situation. The reality is that if the tax rate doesn't go up, then we'll have to cut off important city services. We'd have to do the impossible choice of choosing between libraries, community centers, police department. There's just no way to maintain the headcount with the employees and the services that the city provides without doing a rate increase at this time, because we didn't act. The council chose not to act. The former mayor chose not to act over the last few years.
Well, certainly politically speaking, no one likes to talk about tax increases, but would you say that the tax rate in Nashville as a whole is you know, pretty darn low comparatively speaking? And I guess, what was it? The last time there was a property tax increase was 2012, is that right?
It was 2012, and we currently have the lowest tax rate in the history of the metropolitan government. We've got the lowest tax rate of any big city in the state of Tennessee. The Chamber of Commerce has done a study recently that showed for peer cities like the Charlottes, the Indianapolises, Birmingham's, Denver's of the world, Nashville has by far the lowest overall tax rate once you take into account sales, property, income tax. So there's no question that we've got a low tax rate, and there's no question that that's part of what's driving so much gentrification and getting outside investors to come here. The real issue is that we've gone so long without raising it that this is going to be a jolt. Unfortunately, every year we wait, it's just going to be a bigger jolt to get this fixed, to get back on track of having a right-sized government for our city.
Yeah, I've heard some say you can pay me now or you can pay me later, how that plays out. Now, isn't it true, though, one of the reasons maybe we've been able to get away without raising the rate itself is that the assessments and the value of properties here have gone up so much that you still are collecting more from the property owners, correct?
Well, there's no question about that, but even after you look at the higher assessments compared to the peer cities, the overall tax load on constituents is lower here than in the peer cities. Now listen, none of that's going to make people feel better about getting a 32% jolt. Nothing is going to make that feel better. But because of the failure to raise it, the failure to have a rainy day fund, we're stuck between having a big jolt now, a bigger jolt later, or can fire a bunch of 1,000 employees.
The issue here with regard to individuals, certainly, and homeowners are seeing it. Small businesses as well, some of them obviously really cash-strapped and having a tough time. I don't know, did you have a chance to read the letter that was sent to the mayor and posted on Twitter from the owner of Peg Leg Porker?
I have read that and the ensuing multiple days of Twitter battle over it. I have seen all that, right?
I was just wondering your take, because, I mean, he laid it out, I mean, from his perspective about how hard it is, and how he's been a good steward and how he could take his restaurant elsewhere. And, along those lines, I thought it was, the way he put it together, it wasn't necessarily antagonistic. It was more just his point of view and laying it out. You could agree or disagree. What did you think of his point of view when it came along to as far as small businesses and people like him who have built his business up from the ground and just keeps feeling as though he's getting hit?
Well, listen, I value the opinions of all voters of Davidson County, and so I don't want to be in a fight with him. The reality is that he put his business not in the middle of nowhere. He put his business in the middle of a tax-funded redevelopment district where tens of millions of dollars of public money went into infrastructure in the surrounding area. He himself put a couple $1 million worth of improvements into his building, and the reason why his taxes are higher than his mortgage is because he's got a super low mortgage from the looks of things. And if you do the math on what he's paying in sales tax to the state, he's got a nice little business going. So I don't dispute the perspective. He's getting the jolt like everybody else is getting the jolt. And city government shouldn't create a situation where there has to be a 32% increase in order to keep funding the government. But he has a very nice business, and I doubt that he could do the revenue he does outside the Gulch.
Interesting. Hey, listen, Councilman Mendes, we have to take a break. When we come back, let's continue our conversation. We have some calls and some comments coming in on Facebook as well. We're streaming live at newschannel5.com. If you want, I'll try to pass some of those on, and we'll talk to him more about moving forward and what other options potentially besides such a large increase the council could look at as well. Remember, this is just a proposal right now. So we'll take a break, be back with more with a good councilman right after this.